The world truly stopped on that fateful day in December 2022. It wasn't just the end of an era, it was the moment a myth became a memory. Pelé, the king of football, the man who made the number 10 jersey the most famous piece of clothing on the planet, had finally left the pitch. But while millions of fans were wiping away tears, a different kind of high-stakes game was already kicking off behind closed doors. You see, Pelé didn't just leave behind 3 World Cup trophies and over 1,000 goals. He left behind a massive, sprawling empire worth an estimated $100 million. But here's the real kicker. Did you know that even the king of football couldn't escape a messy, complicated inheritance battle? It sounds like a movie script, doesn't it? But for the family of Edson Arantes do Nascimento, this was the start of a reality that would shock the world. When we talk about $100 million, it's easy to get lost in the numbers. But is that staggering figure even accurate? Some experts say it's just the tip of the iceberg, while others whisper that the king's liquid cash wasn't as deep as we all imagined. The will he left behind wasn't just a simple document, it contained secret elements that sent shockwaves through his family. We're talking about hidden clauses and surprise heirs that nobody saw coming. It's wild to think that a man so beloved by everyone could have such a complex private life waiting to be unraveled by professional judges and lawyers. Let's take a trip back to late 2022. Brazil was in a state of collective mourning. The streets of Santos were filled with people who had treated Pelé like a god for decades. But as the funeral processions ended, the business side of death took center stage. Who gets the mansions? Who gets the royalties? The speed at which legal documents began to surface was enough to give anyone whiplash. It became clear very quickly that there were underlying tensions bubbling beneath the surface of the mourning family. The unity shown at the wake started to show some cracks. So, who are the players in this high-stakes game? First up is Marcia Aoki, Pelé's third wife. She was the woman by her husband's side during his final years, and according to the will, she was granted a significant 30% stake of everything. That's a massive chunk of the pie. Then we have what people are calling the original 7. These are his recognized children from his relationships, including names like Adinho, Kelly, Jennifer, Joshua, and Celeste. Each of them has a legal right to a share, but when you divide a fortune by 7, the numbers start to shrink very quickly. But wait, there is a surprise addition that caught everyone off guard. Pelé specifically named Jemima Lemos McMahon, his stepdaughter, as an heir. He wanted her to be treated just like his biological children. It's a beautiful gesture, right? But in a courtroom, beautiful gestures usually mean more legal arguments. And just when you thought the roster was full, a bombshell dropped. Rumors started swirling about a mystery 8th child. A woman named Maria do Socorro stepped forward, claiming to be the king's daughter. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. This mystery heir is the ultimate wild card. A DNA test was ordered after Pelé's death to prove her claim. If she is indeed his daughter, the fortune distribution has to be recalculated. Imagine the tension in the room every time a lawyer brings up that pending test result. The central conflict here is a classic mix of Brazilian law and Pelé's final wishes. In Brazil, you can't just give all your money to whoever you want. Can a king control his treasure from the grave? The stage is set for a deep dive into the drama that is only just beginning now. So what exactly was inside that massive treasure chest? When we talk about a king, we usually expect gold bars and crowns, but for Pelé, his wealth was spread across a sprawling real estate empire that would make any developer jealous. Think about the luxury mansion in Guarujá, a coastal paradise where the king spent so much of his time. It's not just a house, it's a 4-story monument to his success, complete with its own elevator and views of the Atlantic that would take your breath away. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're talking about prime properties scattered all across Brazil, from high-end apartments to vast plots of land, each worth a fortune. However, the most mind-blowing part of the inventory isn't actually the bricks and mortar, it's the Pelé brand. You see, his most valuable asset isn't a house. It's his name, his iconic signature, and his likeness. Even now, every time a company wants to use his image for a campaign or a jersey is sold with that legendary number 10, money flows into the estate. But here's the million-dollar question: who actually gets to sign off on those royalties now? There are rumors of hidden bank accounts in different countries and complex investments that were kept away from the public eye for decades. People are left wondering if the true value of his holdings was ever fully declared, or if there's a secret fortune still waiting to be discovered by the lawyers. Now, let's talk about the friction, because where there is a mountain of money, there is almost always a bit of heat. There was a very specific request in the will regarding Marcia Aoki, Pelé's third wife and widow. Pelé wanted her to have the absolute right to keep living in that gorgeous Guarujá mansion for as long as she needed. On paper, that sounds like a beautiful romantic gesture, right? But reports suggest that the original 7 recognized children were a bit more than hesitant about the 30% allocation granted to her. It's not just about the cash, it's about control over the family legacy and the physical spaces they grew up in. And speaking of control, we have to look at the drama surrounding Edinho, Pelé's son. In the beginning, he was the one named as the executor, the man in charge of making sure everything was handled according to his father's wishes. But then, things took a sharp and public turn. Edinho was eventually removed from that position, and the responsibility was shifted toward professional administrators and the widow. Imagine the tension behind those closed doors. One minute, you are the captain of the ship, and the next, you're just another passenger watching the lawyers take the wheel. This transition didn't happen without some serious legal maneuvering, and it highlighted a deep divide within the family that the world was finally starting to witness. Just when the family thought they had enough on their plates with the existing heirs, a bombshell revelation hit the headlines that changed the entire math of the inheritance. Enter Maria do Socorro. She stepped forward claiming to be Pelé's 8th child, a daughter who had been living in the shadows for her entire life. Can you imagine the shock in the courtroom? If her claim is proven true, she isn't just a footnote in a biography. She's a legal heir entitled to an equal slice of that $100 million pie. To settle this once and for all, a DNA test had to be arranged post-mortem. Talk about a high-stakes scientific mystery. The family's reaction was reportedly a mix of skepticism and deep frustration. Why? Because every single new heir that joins the table means the individual shares for everyone else get smaller. The results faced significant delays, leaving the entire distribution of the fortune in a state of legal limbo. Every day that the test result didn't arrive was another day the money stayed locked away, untouchable by anyone. But here's a plot twist that nobody saw coming. While everyone is fighting over who gets the biggest piece of the $100 million, some shocking rumors started floating around that the king might have been facing some serious financial hurdles. People started asking, is the king actually broke? Now, broke is a strong word for someone with mansions, but there were whispers of significant debts and massive tax issues lurking in the background. Maintaining a king's lifestyle is incredibly expensive, and between the travel, the medical expenses, and the overhead of managing a global brand, was the liquid cash actually there? Evidence began to surface of legal battles regarding unpaid taxes that had been dragging on for years. This changes everything. If the estate owes millions to the government, the final payout to the children and the widow might be a lot smaller than they ever dreamed. It's a classic case of expectation versus reality, and the reality of the Brazilian tax system can be absolutely brutal, even for a legend. Could it be that the fight is over a treasure chest that isn't as full as it looks? The mystery keeps growing, and the stakes have never been higher as the legal clock keeps ticking. As the details of these tax battles and family disputes spilled into the public eye, the reaction from fans across the globe was nothing short of explosive. You've probably seen the comment sections on Instagram and Twitter. People are absolutely losing it over the situation. It is wild to see how people react when there is so much money involved. One phrase kept popping up everywhere like a wildfire: they are fighting over his bones. It's a heartbreaking sentiment, isn't it? To see the man who brought joy to the world being at the center of such a messy legal tug of war. Fans are feeling a bit protective of the king's image right now. They compare the dignity Pelé carried himself with throughout his 82 years to the perceived greed of the legal battles happening now. Many find themselves siding with the widow, Marcia Aoki, while others feel for the children. And believe me, speaking of that football royalty, we have to talk about how the big Pelé brand is being handled while the lawyers are busy filing paperwork. The agency in charge, Legends 10, has a massive job on their hands. They aren't just managing a name, they are managing a global icon, but this has sparked its own set of controversies. Have you noticed how we're seeing more of Pelé now than we did in his final years? There is a lot of talk about using AI and old footage to create new commercials and digital appearances. Some fans see it as a beautiful tribute, a way to keep the king alive for new generations, but others, they see it as a blatant cash grab. It's a thin line to walk. Then there's the physical side of his memory, the legendary Pelé Museum and that incredible mausoleum in Santos. If you ever visit, you'll see it's a place of pure gold. It's designed to be a holy site for football fans, but even this has faced criticism. Is it a genuine place of rest, or is it turning into a tourist trap designed to keep the revenue flowing? It's a tough pill to swallow for those who just want to remember the man who could make a ball dance. But the biggest cloud hanging over everything is still that DNA test. If Maria do Socorro is recognized as the 8th child, the entire distribution of the estate will have to be torn up and rewritten. Can you imagine the frustration of the other heirs? They've been waiting for years to settle this, and one positive test result could send them all back to square one. This is what people call the curse of the greats. We've seen it with Diego Maradona. We've seen it with Prince. When a legend dies without an airtight plan, the court system becomes their new home for decades. Will the family ever reach a peaceful agreement? Or are we looking at a legal battle that will outlive us all? Brazilian courts aren't known for absolute speed. At the end of the day, though, does the money even matter to us, the fans? When you close your eyes and think of Pelé, do you see a $100 million estate? Or do you see a young kid from Tres Corações winning 3 World Cups? The gold in the bank will eventually be spent or taxed away, but those goals and that smile are permanent. But hey, I want to hear from you. If you were in Pelé's shoes, how would you have split the money to avoid this mess? Should the widow have gotten less, or do the children need to move on? Let us know in the YouTube comments. And make sure to hit that subscribe button, because as soon as those DNA results for the mystery heir drop, you know we'll be the first to tell you. It's a story that keeps evolving every day. Stay tuned for more updates on this saga. The king may be gone, but the drama is not over.